What makes a game difficult? Is it puzzles, bosses, nerve control, or a mixture of all of those things? I think almost any answer to that question is a valid one. However, I think there's something all players, especially Five Nights at Freddy's players, can agree does not make a game difficult. RNG. Standing for random number generation, RNG is basically just when the game decides to go, and make something happen in the game at complete random with no thoughts of balancing or user experience whatsoever. In a lot of games, RNG can be a good thing and add to the overall experience, whether that be contributing to grinding for a really good gear in a dungeon of an MMO, or contributing to a loot box if you're a degenerate and play Hoyoverse games. But something I think FNAF players can agree on is that RNG is almost never a good thing, and the game we'll be diving into today implements it in some of the worst ways of all time. Join me as we dive into the world of the Tubby Land Archives. The Tubby Land Archives begins with a cutscene. The camera pans around the building, showing the various rooms, and we listen to a quick phone call from the CEO of the company we will soon be working for. He tells us that we've gotten the job and that we'll meet with a guy named Joey, and he'll be teaching us what we need to do. The camera pans past two of the antagonists we will soon be introduced to, and oh my lord, do I need to talk about how awesome this game looks. These characters look terrifying. I love them, and I honestly feel like this game's menu screen is one of the best FNAF menu screens I've ever seen. The way the characters shake as they reach out for you, mixed with the unsettling background music, provides a very uncomfortable feel, which I think fits great into a FNAF game. Anyways, moving on to night one, we're introduced to who I can only assume to be Joey. However, through in-game subtitles, we can see the game refers to him as 03. Not really sure why. The night one phone call is just about as uneventful as I'm sure you could have guessed. 03 explains the basics, and not much lore is mentioned at all. 03 tells us that the guy that worked before us was named Evan, but other than that, not much else is revealed. And while yes, I could describe to you how he describes what our job is, but it's kind of my job to tell you what our job is, so let's do that. There is only one threat that is activated on night one, that threat being Poe. For those of you who are grown adults and don't know anything about the Teletubbies, Poe is the red one. However, before we can actually talk about Poe, we should talk about the general tools we have at our disposal. Obviously, we have cameras, but the cameras in this game have three unique functions. Okay, one unique function. I've seen the other two. I'm just trying to be nice because apparently I'm way too negative in these reviews. Let's go over the two non-unique functions first. To start, we have our camera flashlight. Just like FNAF 2, it lights the camera up. Who would have imagined? Wow. However, the flashlight battery in this game that's displayed in the top corner of the camera actually goes down pretty fast. So that's why in my playthrough, which you can see on my second channel, Dxtr Black, it's very common for you to see me flash the light on a camera for a fraction of a second. Since as you play this game, you'll learn where to look for each of the animatronics, a super brief flash should really be all you need. The next familiar mechanic is an audio lure, except unlike most audio lures, it won't make you want to kill yourself by only working a handful of times before forcing you to stare at a reboot monitor for 300 years. I'll explain how the audio lure mechanic works when it becomes relevant. Before that, let's talk about the last mechanic in the cameras. The reboot? The shock. I don't really know what to call it. There's a button on the cameras that allows you to remotely turn off and on said camera. There's almost never a reason to turn a camera off, so I'm just gonna pretend like that doesn't even exist. But turning a camera on is very important because of one main mechanic this game has that just makes me smile from ear to ear. You see, that joke was funny because I lied. In the top corner of the screen, you'll also see a camera stability percentage. Throughout the night, this number will decrease, and each camera has its own dedicated percentage. When the percentage reaches 0, that camera will automatically shut off, and you'll have to go to said camera and turn it back on. This mechanic is in no way annoying by itself, but when mixed with a certain dickhead we'll talk about later, this will quickly become one of the main things in this game that makes you want to detonate a flash grenade next to an infant. You can also hide behind some curtains in your office, but that won't become necessary until a later night. Now, pivoting to talking about Poe. Something I'll hand to this game is that it does a really good job at making every character be a constant thorn in your side. No character can be forgotten about. No character can you just let your brain go on autopilot to deal with. you constantly have to be aware of each character, which is something I think is a very good thing in a FNAF game. Po will do what most robots in FNAF games tend to do, wander around the building and make their way to your office. Something you'll notice about a lot of characters in this game is their ease of ability to juke you. Unlike most FNAF games where each character usually only has one main form of attack, most of the characters in the Tubby Land Archives can attack both of the doors in your office. And because of the way the building is set up, there are multiple opportunities for the characters to swap which side they're going to attack on, making it even more important for you to constantly be monitoring all of them. Po is the only character in this game that is affected by the audio lure, thankfully. However, there is a very big problem with Po that I will bring up towards the end of this video, but for now, Po pretty much is just Springtrap. Don't let her get to your doors or she'll insert herself inside of you, and you can only lure her into rooms she's adjacent to. Ooh, I don't like that. Call it back this way, bro. Come here, please! Po by herself is not a formidable foe, but will likely become the character you forget about the most later down the line. Of course, it wouldn't be a FNAF game without post-night minigames where all you do is walk around, now would it? Rest assured, Tubby Land Archives has those as well. However, there is something I want to mention about these minigames. The way they control is honestly really satisfying. The camera moves with the player, but it doesn't lock to them. It glides around their movements, which leads to a super satisfying feel. Not only that, but the art doesn't have that typical purposeful dog shit look to it. It looks like this could actually be a game inside of an arcade machine, and I think that's great. But what happens in the first minigame? Well, to start, we play as the green Teletubby, Dipsy. We're told to find Nunu, and once again, for those of you that know nothing about the Teletubbies, Nunu is this fucking vacuum that's alive, or something. After wandering around the building, we find Nunu in a closet and his eyes glow red, which means he's evil because duh, that's what red means. And we're told that Nunu was sleeping. Duh, that's why his eyes were closed, you moron. I can't believe the game is having to explain this to you. On night 2, we get another call from O3. He explains not a whole lot, basically just goes over the 2 new animatronics, but I feel like I can do a hell of a lot better than he can. He does bring up Nunu, the vacuum cleaner, and explains that the CEO worked on building him himself. He always told the workers to stay away from it because it was too dangerous. I find that a bit odd, and so does O3, but we're gonna not question it. It's just FNAF things, I suppose, right? Anyways, on to the 2 threats this night introduces, the previously mentioned Nunu and the yellow Teletubby, Lala. Lala is the real main antagonist of this game, at least she feels like it, as she is the character that without a doubt will require the majority of your attention throughout this game, and is the first major occurrence of painfully AIDS RNG throughout this experience. Lala is one of the few characters that can be seen on the cameras without the use of the flashlight since her eyes glow. She does the same thing that Po does. She can attack both doors and has multiple points throughout the cameras where she can swap sides and fuck your day up. Generally, her mechanic is easy. Lala will never move backwards, so once she's at the entrance of one of your doors on the cameras, if you later check and she is no longer there, then you know she's about to attack you. And when she is, all you have to do is hide behind the curtains and she'll jump into the office to look for you. Yes. Yo, I would not want those things to grip my hips. I ain't not gonna lie. Them big fucking oven mitt hands, bro. But she does have the mind of a toddler and will quickly forget why she wandered into the office in the first place and promptly leave. Where Lala becomes incredibly ass-clenchingly AIDS is when we start to talk about what I'm going to call her final bait and switch. The 2 final cameras she will appear on before attacking are camera 1A and camera 1B. However, there is a camera in between that can serve as one final point for Lala to switch sides, that being camera 2A, the worst fucking camera in the whole game. When Lala is on either of her 2 kill cameras, when she has a successful movement opportunity, she will do one of 2 things. 1, she'll just prepare to enter your office, wherein you'll need to hide behind the curtains, or she can do the much more frustrating option, move into the bait and switch camera. When she's in this camera, she obviously won't be able to enter your office. However, when comparing this switch camera to the other one, it becomes a lot more infuriating. The other 2 switch cameras are 4A and 1B. This is the only other point in the cameras where the characters can switch attack sides. However, The difference between these cameras and the bait and switch cameras is that the bait and switch cameras have a camera in between. And because of this, when Lala is in the bait and switch camera and has a successful movement opportunity, she can enter any of the 2 kill cameras, even if it's the kill camera she just came from. This alone isn't a huge problem, but when we get into later nights and everyone is more aggressive and there's more characters active, in most cases, you would almost always rather have Lala just move into her attack phase so that she'll reset to camera 5A and you can focus on someone else for a bit. However, there will be many occurrences where Lala will just jump between her bait and switch cameras, leading to you need to spend way more time on her than you ever should have, which will end up getting you killed by either Poe or another character I'll mention later in the long run. The other character this night adds is the previously mentioned Nunu. Nunu, thankfully, isn't a normal attacking character. Nunu is actually in the office with you, and you can see him behind the curtains you go to hide in. He's just a preventative measure to stop you from hiding in the curtains all night. If you stay there for too long, he'll kill you. Pretty simple sugar. After beating night 2, we're tossed into another mini-game segment, this time playing as Poe. Once again, we have to go find Nunu. After a bit of exploring, we find him getting his clanker ass to work, filling up the custard machine to make some bomb-ass desserts that I personally will never eat because I'm not really a sugar type of guy. Moving on to night 3, we get yet another phone call from 03. He tells us that everyone who works in this building never feels like they're alone when they enter the building, and no shit, there are a bunch of murder robots always trying to fornicate with them, so that checks out. 03 expresses that he will be trying to look through some of the files later on to figure out what's going on, and if I were to guess, that's not gonna bode well for him. 03 also mentions another Teletubby, and of course, that character is the new threat on this night, that being the purple Teletubby, Tinky Winky. Tinky Winky is probably the least frustrating character throughout this whole game. Same shit as every other character. Go to your office, juke you along the way. Except the way to deal with Tinky Winky is different. We're told that he doesn't like high-frequency noises. Well, luckily for us, the flashlight on our cameras just so happens to make that correct frequency of noise to piss him off. He also makes a very noticeable sound cue on whichever camera he's on. So if he's ever in the wrong place, just hold the light on him and he'll move backwards. No problem whatsoever. The post-night 3 minigame has us play as Lala. Once more, we're tasked with finding Nunu. Spoiler alert, this is what we're gonna have to do in each of the minigame segments. After some searching, we find him taking out the trash. However, as I'm sure you could already see because you have eyes, the trash he's taking out definitely looks like flesh and blood, so that's just awesome now, isn't it? Night 4 gives us my favorite phone call in this entire game. Something I really need to point out is how amazing the voice actors in this game really did. The acting is nothing short of amazing. It never sounds like the characters are acting, it always just sounds so real.
It turns out I'm not crazy. There's something going on around here, and it's not good. I don't really know how much I can say over the phone. I mean, who knows who's listening, but I think I might be onto something. This whole company goes way deeper than I ever thought.
And that's what I think all good acting should be. You shouldn't even think that the characters are actors, just that they're characters. And I think this game does an almost perfect job at that. Moving on to what's actually said, 03 did some digging and explained that the entire company goes way deeper than he expected. He found some things that he probably wasn't supposed to see, but he never gets into explaining what. Before he does, the CEO comes to his office. They have a brief yet uncanny conversation. The CEO knows that someone had been looking at the company documents, and it's clear that he thinks 03 did it, which, to be fair, he did. 03 denies ever doing so because, of course, why would he admit that? And the CEO says that he's got his eyes on him. He asks 03 to come in the next night to help look for some of the documents, and 03, while confused as to why, agrees anyways. The CEO leaves the office and 03 quickly hangs up the phone. This night also introduces the final threat in this game, Dipsy. Dipsy is another character that you won't really have to focus on all too much. Dipsy will appear in your front office door. He has a few phases he can move through before you see him in his main attack phase, where he's fully leaned into your office. When you see him like this, all you have to do is hide. A very faint sound cue will play when he leaves, and you'll be able to come back out and continue. Not a very difficult character to deal with, but a character that does force you to pull the camera down every once in a while. And in a game where the camera is easily the most important tool, this isn't something you're gonna wanna be doing very often. This is also the night where you'll really start to notice how difficult this game really is. The characters really start to move quickly on night 4, and the pressure present and nerve control required really starts to stand out. In the comments of my first episode of this game, which you can watch over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I got several comments warning me about how hard this game really is, and upon reaching night 4, I finally really started to feel it. But nothing could prepare me for the complete bullshit I was about to go through come night 5. But before we can talk about night 5, we need to talk about the post-night 4 minigame. In it, we play as Tinky Winky and find Nunu cleaning up a spill, as the game puts it. This spill very clearly is blood, and I have my suspicions as to whose blood it could be, but I'll explain my thought process after we talk about night 5. Night 5's phone call is a doozy, to say the least. O3 explains that the CEO set him up. He came in the night the CEO asked and walked right into a death trap. He mentioned he found a box in a party room that smelled terrible. He found several documents. Reading them revealed everything. He explains that the entire building and business we're in now is a cover-up. But before he can tell us more, Nunu finds him and kills him in what I can only describe as one of the most uncomfortable phone calls I've ever heard. Shit. Nunu, no. Oh, are the... Okay, that was a pretty cool fucking phone call, dude. I can't even lie. That was actually badass. And I can only assume he is the owner of the blood that Nunu was cleaning up in the post-night 4 minigame. But now we get the displeasure of talking about night 5. Single-handedly, one of the most infuriating gameplay experiences I've ever had in my entire life. This is where the RNG gets atrocious, and where I find this game's biggest asshole, Poe. As I've already mentioned, Poe acts very similarly to Springtrap in FNAF 3, and if you know anything about FNAF 3, then you know the worst thing about it is the dreaded 1 in 7. For those of you who have played FNAF 3, that phrase probably just sent chills down the back of your spines. 1 in 7 refers to the 1 in 7 chance Springtrap has to completely fucking ignore your audio lure, and is single-handedly the reason why FNAF 3 is even as hard as it is, as it takes a system that would be built around skill and turns it into a game of, is Springtrap gonna fuck you or not? This is exactly what Poe does. At least, I'm pretty sure, is what she does. There's no official documentation about her AI, and as far as I'm aware, there's no decompiling of this game to double check. But I'm almost positive she has the same mechanic. Maybe it isn't 1 in 7, but it's almost 100% 1 in something. Because if it's not a 1 in something, then that means that Poe moves around the camera so quickly that your audio lure doesn't even matter. I tried my absolute hardest, but I could not for the life of me beat night 5. I gave up, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. If my theory of Poe ignoring some of the sound cues is correct, then fuck trying to beat that night and just waiting for luck to be on my side. The time you have to wait to use the audio lure after using it is way fucking longer than in FNAF 3. And sure, you never have to reboot it, but that doesn't really matter when Poe moves at the fucking speed of the goddamn Roadrunner. Seriously, go watch my Night 5 playthrough on my second channel, Dxtr Black. It's almost laughable how quickly Poe gets to my office despite me using the audio lures at every single opportunity that I could. You could also just watch to see some salt since there's plenty of that, but like, goddamn, this night is hard. This game is fucking hard. I should have listened, but I was thinking, well, how hard could it possibly be? And the answer to that question is, I don't know. It's impossible to tell how hard the game is because the skill ceiling is capped by how lucky you get, so I don't even know how difficulty could be measured. But I need to relax a bit. Sure, I wasn't able to beat this game, but I know there are some people out there who were able to, and because of those people, indie fuel, that I'm able to finish talking about this game. So congratulations to all of you who put yourself through this horseshit torment. I appreciate you. The post-Night 5 minigame actually takes place before the Night 4 minigame. We play as Tinky Winky once again and actually get to see who, once again, I can only assume to be 03, dragging himself out of a room before all of the animatronics hold him down as Nunu kills him and he's left to die on the floor alone with no one to ever come and help him. We get our check for the week, but before we decide to piss off forever, our character begins to speak to himself. He wants to go back for one more night to see if 03 is still alive, and if he isn't, he wants to get the documents that 03 mentioned so that his death wouldn't be in vain. Personally, if it was me, I don't care if 03 was my brother. He's dead as disco, and there would be no way in fuck I'd be going back there in a million years. But Parker, our player's name, decides to, and we get to jump into night 6, an experience I never got to see for myself, and I'm glad I didn't. As far as I'm aware, nothing new was added to night 6, just being a more difficult, more RNG-based fuckfest of a night, but after completing it, we move on to the post-night 6 minigame. This minigame is actually a minigame, not just a walk-around simulator. In this minigame, we have to find 10 of the documents in the basement, all while the animatronics patrolling you are trying to find us. If at any point they see you, you're dead because they're much faster than you are. So you have to strategically hide by staring at a fucking wall every once in a while whilst they pass, and eventually escape the building. I obviously never did this because I couldn't even beat night 5, let alone night 6, but even just watching somebody else complete this minigame, even this minigame looks really fucking hard. So I'm grateful that I never had to do it. But that's all Tubby Land Archives Act 1 has to offer. Yes, I did say Act 1, which would imply that there are more on the way. In fact, Act 2 does actually have a Game Jolt page, but with no updates on said page for over 2 years, who's to say if it will ever actually come out or not? I personally really hope it does, because the story of this game actually seems intriguing to me, which is odd for a FNAF game. Overall, the Tubby Land Archives can prove to be an incredibly frustrating, luck-stricken experience. However, I don't think that can fully take away from how amazing this game both looks and how it is mechanically if you can put aside the 2 major RNG points that it has. The story is mysterious and is everything I need to want a sequel, and I really hope it does come. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think that the Tubby Land Archives is nothing but reimagined slop of a FNAF fan game that came out years ago? Let me know in the comments below. In my Those Nights at Rachel's video, I asked you guys what your biggest FNAF hot take was, and my favorite answer was this one by an avid panda lover. They said the trope of, quote, employee killed children and that's why the animatronics are hostile, end quote, has been completely overdone by every fan game, and I totally agree. I would love to see a fan game story where child murder isn't the key and major plot point, and honestly, it almost seems like that's the direction the game we covered today is taking. The question of this video is, what is the most frustrating experience you've ever had playing a FNAF game? With the question of the video being asked, subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it a lot. I've been Dxtr, and I'll see you all in the next video. See ya! Asset dumping. The art of using random art from around the internet as all of your assets in a game, seen with games like Getting Over It, Yandere Simulator, and plenty more. Five Nights at Freddy's games have their fair share of asset dumping as well. Five Nights at Wario's, One Night at Chica's Magic Rainbow, and of course, the very popular One Night at Frogger's. Usually seen as a very lazy way of creating art for your game, mainly because the creator isn't actually creating any art at all, but not all asset dumps are bad, and in its own way, they're an art form themselves, if you can build your environments properly. The game we'll be covering today is an asset dump fan game, and it's honestly become my favorite I've ever played. Today, we'll be talking about Late Shift at Nintendo World, the most stressful FNAF game I've ever played. Strap in, because I promise you, despite what it looks like, there's so much to talk about. So let's drag our balls into Night 1. Night 1, where it all begins, and where you might already become overwhelmed by the amount of possible things this game is about to throw at you. To start, I love the visual style of this game. While yes, it is just the typical asset dump, there are so many references stuffed into this game, it's amazing. And on top of that, the space in each room and camera is filled up so nicely. It's cluttered, but not so much so to the point that my eyes melt out of my skull. Anyways, Before we start talking about the whopping 3 threats this night introduces, let's talk about the tools at our disposal and the locations we can travel to. Locations? What does that mean, Dxtr? Well, a location is a place you can go, you fucking moron. The first location is obviously your office. You'll see you have a large hallway in front of you and of course your cameras. Your cameras are pretty basic, except for the fact that they're dark as fuck. So we've been equipped with a camera flashlight. The way this flashlight works really makes me want to smother an owl. Every time you use it, only certain cameras will be lit up, since some cameras are outside where the flashlight doesn't reach. The camera light will only stay on for so long before shutting off, and making you wait for a cooldown to be able to turn it on again. Thankfully, the cameras aren't completely pitch black, so my balls get to stay attached to my body for another day. Now, let's talk about the second area you can go to, the outside fence area. Turning around, you'll find a large electric fence. You can tell it's an electric fence because it tells you so, which is very kind. You can hold down a button to charge up the electric fence, and when it charges, the fence will be shocked. Pretty sure that's not how an electric fence works, but to each their own, I suppose. And finally, the last place you can travel is the back shed. The only thing you can do here is hold the door to lock it. While that may seem a bit eerie and intimidating, you'd be right. It really is. But worry not, I'll cover why this place is so important in a little bit. With all of that out of the way, we can talk about the 3 threats this night introduces. Let's start with the main attraction himself, Mario. Mario is disgusting. Literally, look at this model. What the fuck is this thing? Ew. Dude, that thing is fucking nasty. Anyways, now that we're done pointing and laughing at him, what does he do? Mario will work his way to your office through 3 cameras. On each of these cameras, above your light button, you'll notice a music button also appears. If you ever see Mario on one of these cameras, simply press the music button and he will be pushed back 1 camera. Note that he won't be pushed all the way back to his starting camera. So if he travels through multiple cameras, you'll have to follow the cameras pushing him back 1 by 1. Very simple character. As long as you're constantly watching him, which you probably will be, he really shouldn't be an issue. The second threat this night introduces is Mario's taller, skinnier, and much more fuckable brother, Luigi. I'd let his mustache tickle my taint. What? Anyways, Luigi makes use of that spooky little back shed we were talking about earlier. Luigi will appear on camera 9, which connects directly to the hallway in front of your office. You will need to constantly watch camera 9 for when Luigi appears, and once he disappears from camera 9, then you will know he's in your hallway. Something else you'll notice is that you'll never actually see Luigi in your hallway, and there's no camera for the hallway either, and he won't actually appear in the office as well. So you really need to be paying attention. Once you know that Luigi is in your hallway, you will need to hop bottom to the back shed and hold the door locked. Luigi will peer in at you, meaning he was following your big fat juicy bouncing jiggling ass all the way over here. Once Luigi leaves the window of the shed, you're free to go back to the office. Luigi brings up a great synergy with Mario. Both requiring plenty of attention on the cameras really goes to make these two a dangerous combo, and I really don't want to be stuffed by 2 Italian sausages. I also wouldn't want to eat a sausage anyways. Oh, oh. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That's cool. That's cool. I do like that. That is pretty fucking cool. I do like that. This game's gonna get fucking hard, isn't it, dude? The final threat this night introduces is Pikachu for some fucking reason, but whatever. Pikachu makes use of the big electric fence behind you. Occasionally, Pikachu will be visible behind it, and this is when you'll notice that apparently Pikachu came from fucking Jurassic Park because this fat motherfucker is the size of Jupiter. Of course, once you see Pikachu trying to get a peek at your pecker, see what I did there? All you have to do is charge up the electric fence and give him a taste of his own medicine by shocking him like he does to Ash, and he finally will leave you alone again. I can handle a lot, but I personally think an 18-foot tall Pikachu meat between my buns would be a little too much for me. But if you can manage to learn how all these characters work together, you'll move on to Night 2. Night 2 introduces a plethora of new threats, signaling to me that this may be one of the most challenging FNAF games I will ever play. It's only Night 2, and 2 new threats are added, bringing the total number of threats on Night 2 all the way up to 5. So let's talk about them. The first threat introduced on Night 2 is Kirby. I love Kirby. Kirby would never hurt me. That's a lie. This Kirby certainly would. On both your boiler room camera and back room camera, you will see 2 heat symbols have appeared. Kirby will attempt to get into your office via either of these 2 vents. So hooray! We have 2 more mandatory cameras that require our attention. The way you deal with Kirby is simple. Same as Luigi. When he enters the camera, all is good. But the moment he disappears from the camera means he's about to start rolling through your vent and into your office. When he disappears, hit the heat button to scare Kirby out of the vents. The heat only lasts 1 second, however, so you really need to make sure you time it properly. However, now is the time I get to tell you about the worst and most frustrating character we've seen so far, Metanite. That's right, we get 2 Kirby characters introduced at once, and just like Metanite in Smash Bros, he is an annoying pain in the dick. Metanite acts as a Foxy-like character in this game. He will appear in camera 2, which is the entrance. He will make his way through a few stages, and once he disappears from camera 2, he will charge at your office, and you'll be able to hear his footsteps quickly approaching. What you'll have to do is, as fast as you fucking can, run to the back shed and lock the door. Come in real close for me, just for a second. I'm gonna whisper this in your ear, so make sure you turn your volume up so you can hear me. You got it? Yeah? Volume all the way up? Okay, great. Don't let anyone know I told you this, okay? Metanite is so goddamn cock-sucking fast! You barely have any time to react once you hear his footsteps coming. You quite literally have just enough time to get to the back shed and close the door. This motherfucker is brutal. But Dxtr, you're supposed to watch him in camera 2, and once he leaves, then you go to the shed. Sounds pretty easy to me. Shut the fuck up! While yes, it's true that once he leaves camera 2, he will charge at you, watching him really doesn't even fucking matter. Because the moment he leaves 2, the sound cue of him running starts playing. So you might as well just wait for the fucking sound cue, since watching him will only waste the precious time you need to focus on the other characters that actually do give you the time of day to deal with them. And if that wasn't bad enough, Metanite is in the entrance, an outdoor camera, which means not only is it dark as fuck, but your fucking camera light doesn't work on that camera anyways! So you have to rely on the fucking lightning to be able to see jack dick from that camera. But the lightning is not consistent at all. It's completely random, and it only lights up outside cameras for, oh, I don't know, maybe less than a fucking second. So if you want to check the entrance, you either have to just fucking sit there and wait for the lightning to show up, which could take several seconds that you need to be using to check on the other characters, or you could wait to hear the lightning and try to quickly flip to camera 2 to check on this annoying fucker. Both options suck dick, so I guess pick your fucking poison. But if you can tighten your sphincter and listen closely and have reflexes like a god for long enough, Metanite will fold, you will complete night 2, and we can begrudgingly move on to night 3, where I can only hope to God that 3 more characters aren't introduced. Night 3, here we are. Let me tell you guys, this night does nothing to help with my crippling mental state. Because let me tell you, this night is hard. Like, really fucking hard. Let's talk about the threats introduced and why this night is so ass. This night only introduces 2 threats. However, one of them is easily the most infuriating character in this entire game. So let's talk about the one that doesn't make me want to stick my willy in a pencil sharpener first. Link. Link appears in the courtyard where we deal with Pikachu. You'll notice on this night that as you go to the courtyard, you'll now be equipped with a metal pipe. This pipe is used as a form of defense against Link. When Link appears in the courtyard, he will giggle really fucking loud to let you know he's there. You will have to hit him 3 times in order for him to go away. Every time you hit him, he will teleport to a different spot on the screen. However, you can only hit him when the Majora's Mask's eyes are red. If they're blue, you'll have to stare at him until they turn red before you can start hitting him. This brings up even more evil synergies with fuck-ass Metanite, since you won't be able to pass him until you kill him. Bro, he won't die. What? He wouldn't die. The Majora's Mask guy wouldn't die. And Metanite was coming. What was I supposed to do? Now, let's talk about one of the worst and most stressful characters known to mankind, Ness. On night 3, you'll notice in the shed that we now have a new addition of a fuse box. However, you'll notice that this fuse box only has 1 fuse, but there are 3 places for a fuse to go. You can freely move this fuse from one slot to another, but what does this fuse actually control? Well, on 3 cameras on the map that connect to the hallway in front of your office, there is a fire alarm in each of them. However, the button for the fire alarm will only appear on the camera that is adjacent to whichever slot in the fuse box holds the fuse. So if your fuse is in slot B, then camera 9 will have the smoke alarm button on the cameras. Ness will appear in any of these 3 possible cameras. When he appears on one of them, you will have to play the smoke alarm to scare him away. Yes, this means that if your fuse is in slot B and you see Ness on camera 11, you will have to quickly run all the way to the back shed and switch the fuse to slot C, then run all the way back and hope you were fast enough to play the smoke alarm in time. And you want to hear the best part? Ness blends in with the background while the lights are off better than any other character in this entire fucking game. So have fun being able to find him. He also really likes to hide on the side of the cameras, so you'll have to spend even more time slowly panning the 3 cameras he can be in back and forth to really be able to tell if he's in one of them. Easily the character I died to the most, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. I think I'm willing to say I hate Ness more than Metanite, honestly, but it's really, really close. Fuck Ness, he's a bitch. Night 4. Holy shit. I did not think they could make it any worse. And that's exactly what they did. Night 4 adds 3 new characters. Yes, I'm serious. They added 3 more fucking characters to this game, bringing the total up to like fucking, I don't know, 12? I'm not keeping track anymore. This is just insane. Before we start talking about the threats, Juniper, the phone girl, told us that there's an investigation going on. She doesn't tell us what it's about though, just says that the park might close soon for a while. She also does mention that some of the characters are starting to attack patrons during the day, so that bodes great for what they're going to do to us tonight. Speaking of, who are they? Well, let's talk about the smallest problem this night introduces, Fox Puppet. But it's really just fucking Star Fox. Star Fox has a chance to appear in the courtyard behind the fence. However, he is not a fan of being shocked by it, so if you electrocute him, he's gonna dive into your butt. Get it? Because foxes do that thing where they jump really high and dive, but he's diving into your... You get it, fuck me. When he's at your fence, all you have to do is spam your flashlight at him and he'll go away. Really not a big deal at all, and honestly, the amount of time you have to flash him is pretty forgiving. And you can even go to the back shed while he's standing there if you really want to, so in all honesty, he's not that bad. However, the next fuckhead we'll have to talk about is a pain in the dick, Captain Olimar. I'm pretty sure is who this is at least. He will appear in the hallway in your office with 2 sets of eyes. I mention his eyes because they're very important to his attack. On night 4, a thermostat will become present in your back shed, and he directly correlates with this thermostat. When you hear him enter your office, which is signaled by some footsteps, you will have to look at his eyes. If both sets of eyes are red, you will have to run to the back shed and set the thermostat to hot. If they're both blue, set it to cold, and if one set is blue and the other set are red, then set the thermostat to mixed. After a few seconds, Olimar should go away. I don't think I need to explain why this is so horseshit to deal with, especially considering the amount of characters that require so much attention, so I'm not even gonna bring it up. Just know that I'm on the verge of peeling my foreskin like a banana. The final threat this night introduces, which yes, in case you forgot, there is still another threat to throw on top of all this bullshit, is Samus. Samus will enter your office through your hallway on either side. The cameras in which she will try to enter from will now be equipped with a lock button. They're not toggleable and must be held to hold the gutters shut. When you see Samus in either of these cameras, simply hold the lock button shut for a few seconds and she'll run away. Ironically enough, even with all of these threats active, Ness is still the character that has caused me the most suffering throughout this game. He is easily the most frustrating threat of all time. I've also died to Luigi a decent handful of times at this point, just because of how easy it is to forget about him. There is surely no way this game can get any harder. Right? It got harder, so let's talk about it. The phone call from Juniper on this night has her talking about how I shouldn't come to work tomorrow and that I'm stupid for clocking in today. That we agree on. I'm not really sure why I'm here. Apparently things are getting super dangerous, so that's awesome. There's a new threat on this night who doesn't like bright lights, so Juniper said she's changed out our camera lights. Great, hopefully they're better now. They're worse. Oh, so very worse than they were before. Now, instead of having the brightness on the cameras for a few seconds and having a long recharge time, we now have less than a second flash of light and we get a faster recharge time. This is worse in every single conceivable way possible. Dude, this new flashlight thing, fuck this. Oh my god. What is this guy gonna look like, dude? Fuck me. I personally think that a great deal of this game's difficulty comes from it being difficult to see and track the characters. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, by the way. I know the retards over on Reddit like to misconstrue every single point I've ever made. No, I think it's cool that finding the characters is a challenge. However, now only having this small flash of light makes it so fucking much more AIDS-ridden to be able to do so. So, why on earth was our camera light downgraded this badly? Well, to deal with the one new threat this night introduces, Mario. Dxtr? Mario was already introduced on night 1. Did you already forget? No, dear viewer, I did not forget that. There are just 2 fucking Marios now. Why not? Fuck it, right? Why not add another existing Nintendo character? Why Mario again? I have no fucking idea. I don't really understand the thought process here, but we're just gonna shut our fucking mouths and roll with it. This Mario is easily the most stress-inducing character we've seen so far. More stressful than Ness, more stressful than Metanite. Occasionally, throughout this night, you'll hear Mario say, wahoo. And that just means bad news for you. Do you want to take a solid guess as to what you have to do when you hear this sound cue? Go on, go ahead. Guess for me. I've not really complained about any of the mechanics introduced so far, as I feel each of them are pretty unique and offer something of substance to the gameplay loop. So come on, tell me what you think this game is about to do to me. Come here, come here, come here, come here, guess! Guess, you piece of shit! Guess what this game did to me! You have to go find Mario on one of the cameras at random and flash him with your light. I'll find them on the camera mechanic again. How many videos in a row have we had this on this channel? I don't think there's ever been a video where this dog shit cock-sucking mechanic wasn't present. And that's not all. No, no, no. Not only do you have to find him on a random camera that he teleports to once, no, you have to find him on a random camera that he teleports to 3 times in a fucking row! Are you kidding me? Most characters in this game only have you deal with them once or twice throughout the night. Mario? At least fucking 3! You have to find this motherfucker on a random camera, while timed, by the way, and dealing with every other character at the same time, a whopping 9 fucking times! Fuck! 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 I can't fucking handle this shit! This is too much for my brain to handle! Over 10 fucking characters to deal with at the same goddamn time! And all of a sudden I'm in with this bullshit! This game is shoving carrots in my ass like some Bugs Bunny shit! What the fuck is wrong with you? Give me another character that forces me to go to this shit! I don't give a fuck! Not another! Find them on the fucking camera character! You've gotta be fucking me in my rear! Go find my dick! Go find my ass! Go find my balls! Go find my taint! Go find my tits! Chop my penis into 10 fucking pieces and throw each piece onto a camera and go fucking find them all! Fuck you! Nintendo, no, you ain't gonna stop me when I get it going. I ain't gonna slow, no, curtains ain't closing. Pouring all the salt, keep the insults flowing. Light up all the incense, come before the storm. Gather in the Smash Bros army like a swarm. Find them on the cameras, nothing but the norm. Cause another crash out, dog, I'm getting bored. Said, dog, I'm getting bored with you. I'm warning you, you don't really wanna start another war, do you? I don't know who's been around here misinforming you. When you fuck with Dxtr, what the horns pouring at you. Up first, Mario is on the chopping block. The fat fuck plumber getting nothing on his cock. His bitch is locked up with a lizard, dropping cheeks on his rock hard fucking penis round the clock. God damn, it's fucking embarrassing. Her hair's in a bun and he's burying himself in her and she's having fun and he's getting his coming her, sending videos of him fucking her. Check your messages and see. I'll get her home when I'm done with her. Casey's with him too, Luigi don't know the truth. He's staring at the video, skin white like King Boo. Does he dare to check another? No, it ain't true. Check your Snapchat, bro, she's saying he's bigger than you. shit, I could knock you with both hands, make your head spin, do a dance on your can. Pikachu, flash a light at Pikachu. You behind the fence, I charge it up and thunderbolt you. Now you fried up, but we still got another hoe to boot. Star Fox turn, flash, epilepsy. Ooh, you get a seizure, Kirby in my heater. Blast his ass into the fucking ether. Sam is back, her ass so fat I need her. Call her lowest way, she grip my Peter. Nintendo, no, never gonna switch games, I'm about to blow. I've been making big waves, I've been good to go. Do you need to hit save, Annie, yes or no? Nintendo, no. I've been shooting at them like it's Rochambeau. I could kamikaze on a rainbow road. I might cause a riot when I beat them bros. Do you need to hit save, Annie, yes or no? Alright, coming real close. Answer me this question, why you bitches on my chode? Ness is looking at me, licking lips, don't want it though. Gotta flip the fuse box, keep this on the low. Alright, look, I don't know why you're doing this shit. I'm just trying to do my job and you keep riding on my dick. If it was Samus, that'd be fine, but it'd be everybody. Why you're trying to make it through the week, but you keep stretching out the time. Like my asshole, keep on pulling me in with a lasso. Ride me like a cowboy in the desert in El Paso. Friday come along and Metanite be on me bed, and matter of fact, he spanked me with a paddle, made my ass rattle. Put a saddle on me, hit me with a rowel, then he growl in the locker rooms. He hit me with a towel, then he plowing on my shit. I'm doing tricks up on a stick. I did the split contortionist aboard that flip me over, slide me, bend me over backwards. Nintendo, no, never gonna switch games, I'm about to blow. I've been making big waves, I've been good to go. Do you need to hit save, Annie, yes or no? Nintendo, no. I've been shooting at them like it's Rochambeau. I could kamikaze on a rainbow road. I might cause a riot when I beat them bros. Do you need to hit save, Annie, yes or no? Well, glad I got all that out of my system. With that, we can move on to night 6 and talk about something that actually doesn't make me want to kill myself. However, it does still lay a lot on you. Loading into night 6, you'll see we're no longer in the office and we are now actually in a fucking bunker. How did we get here? I have no idea, but that doesn't really matter. What does matter, however, are the new tools at our disposal. However, me explaining all of them to you right now will not be very helpful. So I'll quickly explain the general tools, and then we'll talk about the character-specific ones as we learn about said characters. Obviously, we have our cameras, pretty self-explanatory. We also have 3 entrances to our office, the big hallway right in front of us, and 2 doors to our left and right. These doors can be closed remotely through the cameras, but you have to slowly charge them up before they can close, and only one can be closed at a time. Also, at any time we'd like, we can cut the power to our office and be left in complete darkness with our thoughts, like me late at night questioning what I'm even doing anymore. But this isn't a therapy session, so let's continue. What about the threats introduced on this night? Given the fact we're in a different location, it has to be different characters, right? Well, that would actually be correct. However, one of the characters is a repeat. Remember that one Mario that I really didn't like from night 5? I know I was pretty subtle about it. Well, it appears he followed us down here. However, he is incredibly easy to deal with this time around. He'll wander around the cameras and eventually find his way into your office. Once he stands in front of you, menacingly, all you have to do is whip out your fucking baton like my Willy and tase him in the balls. I'm not kidding. This is fucking awesome and is just what I need after dealing with the bullshit he put me through on night 5. The next threat introduced on this night is Mega Man. He is also pretty simple. He will try to enter your office through your left or right door. When you see him in that door's respective camera, simply charge up that door and seal it shut. Once he bangs on it, you're free to open the door again. Next, we've got to talk about the Villager. She confused me quite a bit during my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. She will enter your office through any of the 3 possible entrances. Her rules state that once she enters your office, shut the lights off until you hear her run away. So tell me, what do you think that means? If you answered, wait until she appears in your office like Mario, then cut the lights until you hear footsteps, then turn the lights back on and continue, then you'd be completely fucking wrong, because she actually never appears in your office at all. You cannot see her when she's inside of your office, even if she is literally there. So, how are you meant to deal with her then? Well, you'll have to carefully track her on the cameras. When she enters camera 8, 7, or 6, her next movement will be into your office. So if you see her on one of those cameras and then don't see her anymore, that means she's currently in your office and you need to cut the lights. The best part? If you have the left door closed and she goes to camera 6, indicating that she will be entering your office through the left door, Even if it's closed like we've already established, she'll still be able to enter your office through that door. Isn't that just amazing? Anyways, I could point out the nuances all day long, but that's not what you're here for. The final threat introduced on this night is Andros, a character I've legitimately never seen before in my entire life. I've been able to recognize each character so far, even if I haven't played the game they were from, like Star Fox, for example. But Andros? What the fuck is even that? Okay, I just looked it up. It's the main antagonist of Star Fox. Crazy coincidence that I just mentioned Star Fox and that I've never played it. That would make sense as to why I didn't know who this was then. Anyways, what does he actually do? Well, in my opinion, he is the most annoying character on this night. He is completely invisible on the cameras, and if he ever gets into your office, you die. In order to track him, you have to use the camera's built-in motion detectors. However, something really interesting about these motion detectors is that they're a piece of shit. Every single camera has the motion detector button. However, only one of the buttons on the cameras will work at a time, at random, and every few seconds, which camera has the working button will switch randomly. Meaning that, even though there's no character on this night that has a find them on the camera mechanic, these fucked up, morbid devs somehow find a way to work that bullshit into the fucking UI! What the fuck are you doing to me? I need to relax. I can't scream anymore. Breathe. How do we deal with Andros? Well, when he is on either camera 8, 7, or 6, you will have to use your heater on whichever camera he's on. Using the UI on the cameras, you can select which camera the heater targets and then blast heat into said camera remotely. Doing so will scare Andros away. Now, that's all of the characters this night introduces. However, there's still one more very important thing I've neglected to mention. Unlike every other night present in this game, Night 6 has a task-based completion system rather than a survival-based one. So that bodes the question, what is the task we have to complete? Well, on the computer at your desk, there are 5 important files we have to decrypt and extract onto our USB drive. The way we decrypt them is simple. Several strings of 4-digit number codes will appear on the monitor, and all we have to do is type them in. Type in several 4-string digit codes without messing up in a row, and trust me, it'll feel like you'll have to do this a billion fucking times, and you'll download one of the files. Do this for all 5 files, and the night is over. This task being added to this night easily makes it the most stressful mechanic this game has ever introduced. I was not expecting something like this from this game, and I honestly wasn't expecting a crazy final night like this in general. I'm all for it. Overall, I do still think Night 5 was harder than this night, but this was definitely a nice change of pace. After completing the night, we take our USB, run out of the bunker and into the parking lot, and drive off to the police station to show them our evidence. Looking back, we notice Mario followed us out and was left standing in the parking lot. We almost didn't make it out alive. It's revealed that our name isn't really Terrence, and we've secretly been an undercover investigator this entire time. The police raided Nintendo World and arrested the CEO, Leonard. Everything we mentioned in our report was found, except for one single thing: Mario himself. The only thing that was left to even prove he was present was his hat. Not knowing his whereabouts now, late shift at Nintendo World comes to a close. Kind of. There's actually a fuck ton more this game has to offer in the form of post-game content and challenges, with a whopping 12 additional characters for us to unlock and fuck around with. There's 9 other ones? There's 12 more? At the time of writing, I have no idea how these characters are achieved except for one. In the challenges menu, 2 fun challenges are present, and when I say fun, I really just mean ass. The first is blind mode, which will cause a constant blizzard to be present during the nights, making it harder to see in your office and in the courtyard. It also forces Night 5's shitty flash mechanic throughout the nights, and increases the amount of time you have to wait between flashes to make it even worse. And if that wasn't enough, blind mode still has one more big fuck you, in the form of a new threat: the Ice Climbers. The way they work is pretty simple, but retarded nonetheless. They have a chance to appear in any of the 3 major locations you can be in. If you ever see them, you just have to go to another area until they leave. I can't describe how terrible that sounds. Again, at the time of writing this, I have no plans to attempt this challenge, nor any of the custom night modes, which I assume will unlock the remaining characters. I do have the thought of attempting these on stream in the coming weeks, so let me know if that's something you'd be interested in seeing me doing and covering. Overall, I think Late Shift at Nintendo World is actually amazing. While I did find a lot of the characters annoying and stressful, the overall gameplay loop is very satisfying to nail down and will leave you feeling like a badass as you complete it. Yes, the entire game is just an asset dump, but you can't deny the crazy amount of effort and care put into it, and that's something I can always appreciate. Being overwhelmed, not necessarily something as we people look for in life. There are a lot of things people like to do that don't really make sense to me. Some people like to go cliff jumping or skydiving, something to give them an adrenaline rush, and while I myself would never do it, I can at least understand how that could be appealing. You want to know something nobody ever wants though? To be overwhelmed. This is the reason why a lot of max mode challenges can turn a lot of people off, and the same reason why I have no interest in trying out Hopeless Pursuit. For the love of God, please stop emailing me about Hopeless Pursuit. I'm not doing it. However, recently I found a FNAF game that is one of the most unique FNAF experiences I've ever played, except there was something very interesting about it. It has to be one of the most overwhelming Five Nights at Freddy's games I've ever played. This is probably going to be a long one, so sit back, relax, and let's talk about Next Week at Freddy's. Next Week at Freddy's takes FNAF 1 and completely reworks everything about it, adding several brand new mechanics to make your heart sink into your ass. And nothing explains this feeling better than when you load into the office and turn around for the first time. Oh, whoa. Whoa, oh, 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 fuck. This is the control panel, your main mode of defense throughout this game. If this looks like a lot, that's because it is. Here's a fun fact, I actually went to play this game around 4 months ago. But after seeing this monstrosity behind me, I actually ended my recording and chose a different game to play because of how ridiculous it looked. This control panel is intimidating. There are so many switches, levers, and panels on this thing. I wouldn't blame you if you decided just from glancing at this that this game wasn't for you. To really understand just how much shit goes on in this game and how much you'll have to learn, this game actually gives you a tutorial night where you can mess around with everything in the building for as long as you want, because just throwing you into the game would 100% be too overwhelming. Next Week at Freddy's doesn't have any phone calls, nobody to help you and to explain to you what to do. Except there kind of is. This is Comcat. Get used to seeing him a lot. His first major role is in the tutorial night, where he will teach you how to use the computers and teach you the mechanics of each important camera in the game, which, by the way, there is a fuck ton of them. So strap in and get ready because it's about to get insane. I'll explain the important mechanics as they become relevant, so let's start with how Comcat works, because yes, of course, he himself acts as a threat. While Comcat himself can't kill you, he can be the most annoying character on the face of the earth when he wants to be. You can click on his icon on your taskbar to make him appear. There are a few phrases he will say when you do this, and occasionally a phrase will prompt you to respond to it. While you're talking with Comcat, you won't be able to interact with anything else on the computer. This includes your cameras, but to be honest, everything else on the computer isn't useful from a gameplay standpoint. If you don't periodically check on Comcat this way, he will take speaking with you into his own hands and appear on the screen whenever he wants. He's pretty much just Bonzi Buddy, except he doesn't steal your private data. When Comcat chooses to appear on his own, the conversation you'll have with him will be much longer than if you initiated the conversation yourself. And since you can't control anything until Comcat leaves, it's in your best interest to occasionally check up on him. 2 characters become active on night 1, Bonnie and Chica. But before we talk about their mechanics, I want to take a moment to really appreciate how amazing this game looks. Every little detail looks incredible, especially the animatronics. If you look very closely, you'll be able to see the fuzz from the fabric on the robots. It's honestly some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen. So much attention to detail, it's incredible. But now we can talk about how Bonnie and Chica work. And trust me, these guys do way more than what they do in the official games. Like, take every mechanic that each of them does from every official game and merge them together, and I bet you that they will still do more in this game. I told you it was overwhelming, so let's get into it. Let's start with Bonnie, since he's usually the baseline, basic FNAF character. the character that should be simple to understand and should pave the way for more interesting mechanics to form off of it in later animatronics. How much could he possibly do? Well, a fuck ton. Like, shitload. Bonnie's a whole fucking FNAF game by himself, I can't even lie. Bonnie starts on stage. You might be wondering why I'm not just saying what I usually say.
Oh, he walks around the building and eventually makes his way to your office.
Well, because he's not that simple this time around. So tracking his movements is actually important. Bonnie has 4 possible attack methods. I'm sorry. 4? That's the most insane thing I've ever heard of. And Bonnie is supposed to be the simplest character? I'm mortified of what is yet to come. Well, calm down, buddy. Let's go over each possible route that Bonnie can take, starting with the most basic one, heading to your office. This one is simple. Bonnie will walk to your office, appear in your window for a while, and eventually walk into the doorway where you can really see how fucking hulkingly terrifying these robots are. I know that FNAF 1 animatronics are like 6'9" or something like that canonically, but no FNAF game has really shown that off in a way that is meaningful. Seeing the animatronics in the doors in this game is actually kind of scary. Obviously, just close the door and you'll be a-okay. However, do keep in mind that the animatronics in this game like to sit at the door for approximately 12 years, so that's fun. Bonnie's next means of making your life miserable is through attacking the compressor room. What the fuck is the compressor room? Well, now is the time we get to start talking about the control panel, and where this game really starts to become an overwhelming headache. The compressor is a large machine inside of the building. The compressor is what allows the doors all throughout the building to be closed, because as I'm sure you could have guessed, it compresses the air that allows the pistons of the door to work properly. I think. I don't know, I'm not an engineer. If any engineers are watching, explain how wrong I am about compression and pistons or whatever the fuck in the comments. Thanks. Bonnie will try to enter this compressor room through the hallway camera right before your office. You will have to use the control panel behind you to remotely close off the door to the compressor room before Bonnie gets the chance to enter. However, it's moments like these where I need to bring up an issue I was never able to figure out myself. Since this game is made in a 3D environment, unlike the Click Team FNAF games, it gives a lot more room for the characters to move around. So it's very common that you'll be able to see characters in multiple places on the same camera. When it comes to doors like the compressor room, telling exactly where the animatronic's next move is going to be is borderline impossible. Sometimes it's obvious and the character will be standing right next to the door facing it. However, sometimes they'll be miles upon miles away from the fucking door, yet still have their next movement opportunity be into said door.
You're not near the door, you're fine.
Oh, Chica, you dick. So this leads to you closing doors whenever you see a character on the camera, which a lot of the times the character was never going to enter in the first place, therefore just wasting a fuck ton of power for no reason. If Bonnie manages to get into the compressor room, he'll slap his fat crack all over it and break it, which will require you to reboot your compressor. With your compressor off, you obviously won't be able to shut any of the doors throughout the building. This includes the doors you can close on the cameras. Bonnie's next attack strategy is the camera connections in the server room. This works exactly the same as the compressor room in theory. You can close the door to the server room when an animatronic is close, using the control panel behind you. If Bonnie manages to get inside the server room, he'll drop his big fat stupid balls all over the control panel and fuck up your camera connections, making you unable to see any of the cameras. You will then have to manually reboot them, which along with the compressor reboot takes a very long time. However, I'd argue that not being able to see your cameras affects the gameplay loop a lot more often. Where a lot of FNAF games fail to make the cameras super useful, Next Week at Freddy's succeeds greatly at making the cameras more important than any other tool at your disposal. The final attack strategy that Bonnie can have is activating Foxy, which brings up Foxy altogether. There are actually 2 different versions of Foxy in this game, the normal one and the scrapped one in the back room. We'll talk about the back room one later. For now, let's focus on the main Foxy. By himself, Foxy is incapable of doing anything and will never attack you, only through the assistance of Bonnie and 2 other animatronics that can activate him. Bonnie has the chance to enter Pirate's Cove and attempt to activate Foxy. Once Bonnie enters, you won't have a super long time to stop him before Foxy comes for that ass.
Whoa, no.
Fucking dick!
My whole asshole just fell off. It did, just dropped right out. Just dropped, just plop, just fell right out of my ass.
Using the special flashlight on the Pirate's Cove camera, you can scare away any unwanted animatronics. However, using this light does temporarily cause higher power usage from everything that uses power. For what reason? I have no fucking idea. I guess God just hates me. If you don't scare Bonnie away fast enough, Foxy will activate and run to your door. If you don't close it fast enough, he'll place his hook into your rectum, and I'm sure you can imagine how unpleasant that would be. If you do close the door on time, just like FNAF 1, he'll take away some of your power. Except unlike FNAF 1, the max he can take isn't 6, instead being like fucking 15% power just disappears out of existence. So really make sure you're watching that Pirates Cove camera. Whew. There, a couple of pages into the script, and I'm finally done talking about the very first character in this game. Isn't that awesome? Now it's time to talk about Chica. Chica also has 4 different ways to attack you. Isn't that just fucking awesome? Luckily for us, 3 of the mechanics are identical to Bonnie. Obviously, Chica can attack your right door. She can also try to fuck up your cameras using the server room, and she's one of the other characters that will attempt to activate Foxy. However, I have noticed that it seems like Bonnie will attempt to a lot more frequently. However, that may also just be because Bonnie's AI value is typically always higher than Chica's is. The new mechanic that Chica adds is pretty similar to Bonnie's compressor attack, except Chica will attempt to attack your power grid. When you see her near the power grid door, you can obviously close it using the control panel behind you. If she manages to get into the power grid room, she will literally just shut off the power to the entire building, and you'll have to reboot it, which takes quite a long time. The power being turned off is undoubtedly the most dreadful situation you can be in. Not only does it require you to wait a billion years for your power to turn back on, but the power being turned off also turns off the compressor, meaning that after you wait forever for the power to turn back on, you then have to wait forever again for the compressor to turn back on. And on top of that, at the start of each night, you have to boot up the cameras, which takes time in and of itself. So of course, when the power is cut, you'll have to reboot the computer as well. Oh yeah, and don't forget to be checking on Comcat frequently or he'll waste even more of your time. Geez, Dxtr, this sounds pretty complicated, and we haven't even introduced everyone yet? Exactly. We still have a lot more to talk about. But if you want to feel a little bit better, the lower the character's AI, the less likely they are to make the most effective choices, meaning that on night 1, most of the movement will be Bonnie and Chica trying to disable your cameras. I personally didn't have them come to my doors on night 1 at all. Night 2 doesn't add anything new, it just increases the AI of Bonnie and Chica, so chances are you're going to be seeing at least one of them at your door on this night. However, I will be taking this time to talk about what I feel is this game's biggest flaw: time. The nights in this game are long as fuck. I'm talking super fucking long. However long you think they are, they're longer. Most typical FNAF games now will have a real life second equal 1 in-game minute, meaning that most nights in FNAF games are 6 minutes long. I feel this is a good length for a night, just dividing the in-world night time in minutes by 10. However, Next Week at Freddy's thought it'd be really funny and a little bit quirky to make each in-game minute 2 seconds in real life, meaning that each night in Next Week at Freddy's is a whopping 12 fucking minutes long. Are we serious? I guess I get it. The animatronics move pretty slowly to give you time to properly search for them on the cameras. But 12 minutes? I think I'd rather swallow a grenade and die, thank you. Like, I still beat the whole game, but god damn, losing when you're 11 minutes into a night will really make you question how violent of a person you actually are. Now, something interesting happens after beating night 2. We get thrown into what this game calls nightmare segments. Think of them like this game's version of a post-night minigame, except this time there's actually way more to do and it isn't mind-numbingly boring. Well, okay, the first one is. During this nightmare segment, we wake up in the back room of the restaurant. Is this actually happening or is this a nightmare? I'm not 100% sure, but I'm leaning more towards it being a nightmare just because of the name of the segment. We wake up on the floor and notice that the door is closed and we're stuck inside. We say that someone will surely come to find us, and without even standing up, the nightmare ends. Again, I told you the first one was boring, but they will only get more and more interesting from here, trust me. Moving on to night 3, once again, nothing new is added. The AI of Bonnie and Chica are just increased. But you really have to think, with how many different ways each of them can attack you, and how overwhelming the game's system as a whole is, this is still enough to make each night feel significantly more difficult than the last. Moving on to the second nightmare segment, we're finally able to stand up and really get a good look at our surroundings. The room is very small and very cramped, which would give any normal person a feeling of claustrophobia. We pick up a flashlight that barely does a goddamn thing and start to explore for an exit. It's at this point where I notice that these nightmare sections would be my least favorite part of the game because of the horrendous mix of both motion blur and horrific head bobbing. But that's really besides the point. We eventually notice a door and recognize that it's just like the one in the office. However, the lever that controls the door is missing. We find it on a desk, but before we can attach it to escape, a throbbing pain comes to our head and we pass out. Night 4 is where we get to talk about the new and final threat this game has to offer. But don't let that fool you, because this threat is a big one. A big stinker. A poopy head for all of you elementary schoolers out there who really shouldn't be watching my channel. Night 4 introduces Freddy, and let me tell you, he's got all the tricks up his sleeve, and he's ready to flatten you like a pancake and fold you like an omelet. Freddy can literally do everything, and he moves faster than the other animatronics, so needless to say, he's going to be the one that grabs a clump of your rump and doesn't let go like a snapping turtle. Not only can Freddy take all 4 of the paths that Bonnie and Chica can take, those being fucking the compressor room, activating Foxy, killing the power, and disconnecting your cameras, he can also attack either of your doors, and there's also something else unique to him that he can do. Remember how I told you that there are 2 Foxies in this game? Yeah, Freddy fucks around with the other one. Scrapped Foxy is present in the back room. The only other character who will enter this room is Freddy. And be careful, because sometimes seeing Freddy on this camera can be pretty difficult, as he has the habit of hiding in the shadows. When you see Freddy in the back room, shut the door to Scrapped Foxy's room using the control panel behind you. If Freddy manages to get inside, he will send Scrapped Foxy to your office. However, unlike normal Foxy, Scrapped Foxy can attack either of your doors. I personally have no idea how much power he takes away when he pounds on your door, as I'm a fucking god gamer and never had to deal with him.
It is a mistake I will not make again. Uh-oh. Okay, let's talk about this. I had that fucking door closed when Freddy was in there.
Which, by the way, you can see my epic FNAF skills on my second channel, Dxtr Black. But once Scrapped Foxy pounds on your door, he'll break in the hallway where he won't reactivate for the rest of the night. And from here, nothing else actually gets added to the night sections. Each night just gets more and more difficult. Now sure, there aren't a lot of threats that can happen at the same time, but the reason why this game is so overwhelming is because of how much you have to remember. You have to know where all the characters are. You have to understand how each mechanic works, and you have to be able to control your nerves during all of this for 12 minutes straight and barely pass each night due to almost running out of power because these animatronics camp more than a fat Call of Duty player.
Oh, hi, Chica. My luck is gargantuan right now.
Moving on to the third nightmare segment, this game really shows how much of a dickhead it can really be. We wake back up and are finally able to put the lever on the door, only to find out that the door isn't even getting power, which doesn't make sense because we know from the night sections that if there's no power, the door opens, but what the fuck ever, I'm pretty sure this is literally just a nightmare. Turning around, we notice that the once cramped room is now larger, as a wall that was previously present has disappeared, now leading into a large storage area. With our worthless flashlight in hand, we venture into the dark room, following a wire on the ceiling that will hopefully lead to something to turn the power on. After some wandering, we find a breaker box, but it's locked and we're unable to get into it. We figure a key must be around the maze of a storage area somewhere, so we set out to find it. Guys, I hated this section so fucking much. I mentioned earlier I have motion sickness, and this gameplay is some of the most nauseating shit I've ever seen in my life. During my playthrough, which you can watch over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I spent a pretty decent amount of time looking for this key, and I couldn't find it. With my head pounding and really just wanting to wrap up the video, I looked up a walkthrough just to see where it was. I went to the location where the guy in the walkthrough found it, shout out to Indie Fuel by the way, only to find that the key wasn't there. The key spawns in a random location, so you can't look up where it is. I now had to spend who the fuck knows how long wandering around with the feeling that my head was about to implode looking for a key the size of your ball sack. However, eventually I did find it and I used it to unlock the breaker, only to find out that all we unlocked was another fucking lock. God damn it! Are you serious? This is not a thing that has ever existed. Now we have to find a 4-digit code in this fucking hellhole. This is by far the worst nightmare segment in the entire game. It is ruthless. At first I thought, oh, let's just try the classics. You know, 1987, 1983, but nothing worked. So I assumed that I had to go find the numbers somewhere. I checked the walkthrough, and of course, the code is randomized. Amazing. After once again, who fucking knows how long, I wander back to the breaker only for the game to then tell me that I should listen for clicks on the correct numbers. Are you fucking me right now? Why did you not tell me that when I was guessing codes before? Why did you wait so fucking long to come up with that? This game hates me. This game is pulling my hair and just plowing the shit out of me like I'm a dirty little slut. But whatever. We input the code and flip the breaker switch. And as we're walking back to the door to try and open it, we once again pass out. I guess that's what happened when you're just fucked for hours upon hours at a time. You get so tired, you just pass out. Fantastic. As I've said, Night 5 doesn't add anything new, so we can just jump right back into the hellhole that is these nightmare segments, where the same 15-second ambience loops forever right in my fucking ear when I already have a goddamn headache. Once again, we wake up and walk back to the door to see if we can open it. We flip the switch, and for fuck's sake, something's wrong with the compressor, so we have to go try and find something else. Now, I'm not sure if this next part was just a me thing, so for anyone else who has played this game, let me know if this next part happened to you. We're told literally nothing of importance. The only thing our character states is something along the lines of, "What am I going to do now?" And that's all we're left with. So my first thought is something along the lines of, oh, I just need to look for another who the fuck knows what. So I did just that. I wandered around the storage area looking for something I hadn't seen before. Who can even say how long I was wandering around before I eventually found what I was supposed to find? Directly next to the original room that we were in at the beginning of the nightmare segments, another wall miraculously disappeared. And that's where we were supposed to go. That wouldn't even be a huge problem if I could fucking see anything at all. But it's so fucking dark. I can't see my hands. It's so dark I can't even think, which I know doesn't make sense, but fuck it, here we are. Entering this new room, we see a bunch of pipes on the wall. We know the power is on, but figure that there's a generator somewhere that hasn't been turned on, because it wouldn't be a horror game if you didn't have to turn on a generator at some point, now would it? After wandering down a hallway that probably took me 20 minutes to find because I couldn't see a fucking thing, we stumble into the room where the generator is. We power it on and promptly pass out once more because of how loud it is. I'm sure you could guess, nothing new of note in Night 6, just really fucking hard. In the final nightmare segment, we wake up once more. We walk back to the pipes only to find that a bunch of gas, or air, whatever the fuck, is leaking out of them. So we have to find something to close the valves, which means I get to play another game of walk around aimlessly with a headache looking for a randomly generated tiny object when I can't see a fucking thing. After a long time searching, we find a valve. We then have to take the valve back over to the pipes and figure out which of the billion of them to close off. At first I thought, let's follow the pipe that leads to the door we're trying to open. So after following the completely unconventional and nonsensical twists and turns of the pipes, I found the one that went to the door. Placing the valve in that pipe, I tightened it and it caused the valve to shoot out at Mach 1000 and land who the fuck knows where. So you know what we get to do now? Play another game of walk around aimlessly with a headache looking for a randomly generated tiny object when I can't see a fucking thing. After finding it lying on the fucking ground, I decided, fuck it, I'm just gonna brute force this one. And to my luck, the pipe I chose to put the valve in next just so happened to be the correct one, thank God. Finally, we head back over to the door and try to open it one final time, and finally it opens. We see a newspaper with some audio from a newscast playing in the background, explaining that an employee at Freddy Fazbear's burned down the building after reporting that the animatronic stalked him during the night. This employee is who I can only assume to be us. We were placed into a psychiatric hospital because everyone just assumed we were cuckoo bananas. We also find out that the owner of the restaurant, who in this game is called Jacob Fazler, retarded name, I should mention, has been arrested for killing several children, probably in reference to the typical FNAF missing children's incident. And of course, the co-owner, Marcus Reed, killed his daughter. Why did this game choose to give them different names instead of calling them William and Henry? I'm not totally sure. But with that, the main game of next week at Freddy's comes to a close. But this game's lore goes a lot deeper than what we've seen. I mean, seriously, the backstory of this game takes up an overwhelming majority of this game's own Wikipedia page. Throughout this game, you're able to look through the files on the computer while also doing things like checking the cameras. It's through these files where you can learn the most overwhelming bullshit you've ever been up against in your entire life. Alright, so let's break down the absolute shit show that is this game's retelling of the original FNAF lore. As I understand it, and with significant help from the wonderful writing of City, the creator of the FNAF fan game wiki. Seriously, I couldn't do this shit without you. No idea how you had it in you to write all this, but here's my shitty retelling. Next Week at Freddy's kicks off with Jacob Fazler and Marcus Reed, the two guys behind Fazbear Enterprises. They started cooking up the idea in the late 80s, and by October of 1989, they have brought the building that would become Freddy Fazbear's Pizza family restaurant. Jacob even logs all of his progress on the same computer in the office you used during the game, talking about buying the stage, wiring the rooms, and bragging about getting pneumotronics to build the animatronics. He also casts the voices: Adam Burton as Freddy, Rick Ellis as Foxy, and Davey and Suzanne Paul for Bonnie and Chica. By 1990, the place is open. Business is booming, Jacob marries Nancy, she helps out in the studio, and soon they're running 3 locations. Everything looks fine, but Marcus slowly drifts away from the company, skipping meetings and distancing himself. In 1995, Jacob installs the infamous control panel in the office. You know, the fucking NASA dashboard of switches that's basically the whole reason this game is overwhelming in the first place. Then, life falls apart. Nancy dies, and that's never explained, and Jacob is left raising their daughter Lara on his own. Lara grows up around the restaurant but loses interest in it, and Marcus cashes out of the company entirely. Jump to 1999. Jacob gets a shiny $12 million offer from Sunbird Hotel Corporation to expand, and for the first time in years, he's motivated again. But in 2001, Marcus storms back demanding his old share. Jacob tells him, "Too bad, fucker, the deal's already done," and Marcus has a meltdown. He's literally dragged out by Adam Burton, Freddy's voice actor, and Marcus files a lawsuit, but the outcome is never revealed. And then tragedy hits. In June 2001, Lara is found dead in the storage room of Freddy's. 3 days later, Sunbird pulls their deal. Jacob's later logs get darker. He writes about hearing Lara's cries and feeling like she's watching him, angry. By 2002, he admits he's, quote, made a mistake. That mistake? Involvement in the deaths of 3 children. Not long after, Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica start moving in disturbingly lifelike ways, which, yeah, the model viewer pretty much confirms are the spirits of those 3 kids. Meanwhile, the employee chat logs on that same office computer show the slow collapse of the place. Staff complain about the animatronics walking around on their own, about creepy suits left lying around, about Jacob drinking and acting strange after Lara's death. Scrap Foxy briefly gets mentioned as this janky earlier version of Foxy. There's even a memo from Jacob banning guest mode after a balloon incident, and literally bolting the animatronics to the stage to avoid lawsuits. And as far as I'm aware, that's all Next Week at Freddy's has to offer. Overall, I think it's one of the most creative FNAF games ever designed from a gameplay standpoint. The game looks gorgeous, it functions really well, and it found a way to make literally every single mechanic useful, which is something a lot of FNAF games just don't seem to be able to do. I would highly recommend you play this game and give it a try. You will not regret it.
Alright guys, the slander is ridiculous. I do not have a Coke can wiener, and I can prove it. I had a lovely fan redraw me. Boom. New art. How does it feel being wrong? You gonna cry? Yeah, you gonna piss your pants because I don't have a penis? Yeah, I was castrated. What are you gonna do about it? Anyways, Jaja, thank you so much for drawing these new poses. I think they look amazing, and I hope all of you get a kick out of them too, and I stop getting comments about my character Skaggs having an absolute sledgehammer penis. I just had to address that. Go follow her on Instagram, link in the description. Let's get to the video. If you've ever played any of the games from the Souls series, you'd know that a lot of the time the bosses, while being incredibly difficult, tend to be able to be broken down into pattern recognition, and once you understand a boss's pattern, beating them becomes much easier. The FNAF game I'll be talking about today feels the same way. Today, I'll be talking about Mary's Arcade, a FNAF fan game that, in its own creator's words, is, quote, a short, simple FNAF game that wasn't overly dependent on story, avoids using FNAF mechanics like doors and masks, and doesn't rely on randomness or luck, just complete skill, end quote. It was that final part about no randomness or luck that really grabbed my attention, since luck and RNG is the main reason I end up disliking FNAF games. 1020 mode in FNAF 2 is the prime example, but of course, fan games are guilty of this as well. I'm excited to dive into Mary's Arcade. I'm sure there will be no complaining from my end at all, and I'll be totally calm the entire time and will never go feral. Grab a snack and a drink, there's a lot I want to talk about. Mary's Arcade begins with us naming the Night Guard, something that I haven't seen other FNAF games do before. The only reason I'm mentioning it here is because the name shows up on the menu and on your paychecks. It's important for me to say that for these videos. I don't typically use my own footage. I usually borrow footage from full playthroughs and challenge runs from people like Toy Bonbon or Shooter. Rest assured, I do play the games I make videos about. I just use other people's footage for the review videos. Just had to get that out of the way. The gameplay loop of Mary's Arcade is honestly super refreshing and unique in comparison to other FNAF games. There are only 3 animatronics, but I promise you that's all this game needs in order to keep the game very difficult. And I promise you, when I tell you this game is hard, this game is really fucking hard. So here's how it works. In your camera system, you have 2 important buttons, your PA button and your buzzer button. I'll start with the buzzer button. When you press the buzzer, it will shock the camera you are currently looking at. If an animatronic is on that camera, they will be locked in place until the buzzer finishes, I don't know, buzzing? What do you want from me? Then afterwards, they will continue on their path. The PA button does something pretty cool. It's somewhat similar to the Balloon Boy call from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. If you use the PA call on a camera that an animatronic is about to go into, they will immediately go into that camera. You can't make animatronic go backwards through cameras, only forward. You might be asking yourself, in what way is that even useful? And the answer is honestly pretty cool. When an animatronic reaches your door, their eyes will light up, letting you know they're there. You will then have to open your camera quickly, select the camera on the opposite side of the office, and use the PA button to lure them through your office to the other side. Now that might lead you to have another question. If you just lure them to the other door, wouldn't they just attack you from that door? And the answer is no. I can't find a very good reason to justify why this makes sense, so we're not even gonna try. But out of the 2 animatronics that attack from your left and right doors, they have movement patterns similar to animatronics from other FNAF games. Mary, the pink wolf, or fox? I don't really know, I think she's a fox. Anyways, she'll move clockwise through the cameras since the building is basically just a big circle. Rascal, the raccoon animatronic, will move counterclockwise around the building. They will never, under any circumstance, turn around and start moving in the opposite direction. They will only ever move forward through rooms. So when you pull one of them through your office, they will have to make a full rotation around the building before being able to attack you at your door again. Are you following along? Great, you get a medal or a cookie. I hope you're allergic to cookies, and you die! Rah! 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 Now I need to mention the only part of this game that I think is a negative. Cooldowns on your door lights. You'll notice that after using the buzzer or the PA button, that a bar will start filling up underneath the button. This is a cooldown for those buttons, and this prevents you from spamming them, which would obviously break the game and make it far too easy. Here's where the problem comes around. Mary and Rascal move at the speed of fucking sound. Sonic type shit. And on later nights when they're both active, the cooldowns become a huge problem. Because once you use the PA button on one of them, the other will reach your office well before your PA cools down. So, what's the remedy for this? Your door lights. In addition to using the buzzer to stall animatronics in place, using your door light when an animatronic is in the doorway will also stall their movement. I will note that the lights are meant to give you an extra 5 to 10 seconds for your PA to cool down, and not meant for you to halt an animatronic when your PA is basically empty. While an animatronic is at your door, they still have a timer for when they'll move into your room, whether you're flashing them or not. And if you're flashing them when that timer runs down, the lights to the building will flicker out and you'll lose the night. If you're easily frustrated, this game is probably not for you. On night 1, only Mary is active. With one animatronic, this game is a cakewalk. But this night is really just meant to give you an understanding of how the mechanics work, and it's also where we're told that the night will pass along faster if the cameras are not up. This gives us an incentive to not be looking at the cameras, but as you'll soon find out, looking at the cameras all the time is going to be the most valuable asset in this game. Night 2 is where Rascal becomes active, and the game actually starts to become a challenge. Still, this night is really easing you into dealing with 2 animatronics at one time, so beating it is fairly easy. On this night, there's a large emphasis placed on your buzzer, because it becomes incredibly important with 2 active animatronics. Night 3 is where this game really amps up in difficulty. You'll notice that Rascal moves much faster than Mary does, which can pose a small problem when it comes to balancing their locations, but be ready because it only goes from 10 to 100 after this night. But before this night ends, you get to see one of the coolest things I've ever witnessed in a FNAF game.
Power supply low. Powering down.
Was that not the fucking coolest shit you've ever seen in your life? A scripted cutscene that makes you think you lost? It's so cool! And I think the only reason why it left so many people, including myself, as shocked as it did, was because it completely breaks the Five Nights at Freddy's norms. I'm sure everyone who's played FNAF has had a moment where the clock strikes 6 a.m. in the middle of a jump scare animation. It's a rare occurrence, yet it somehow still happens to most of us. And this game takes that concept and creates its own cutscene out of it. It was this moment while playing this game that made me decide I needed to make a video about it. But now we move on to Night 4, aka Poop City. Night 4 introduces the final animatronic, Scarlet the deer, or a doe. Fawn? I don't know, it's a deer. Scarlet does something totally different from the other 2 animatronics. She is not affected by your PA system or your buzzer, meaning she'll truck right through the building however and whenever she pleases. How do you stop her? Remember when I said that not looking at the cameras makes the night go faster? Yeah? In order to stop Scarlet, you have to stare her ass down on the cameras. Life's great, dude. It's awesome, honestly. Scarlet begins on the stage like all the other animatronics do, and she'll follow either Mary or Rascal's path. She'll continue in that direction until she reaches your office, where she'll then attack from the door in the middle of the room, which means you can't use your door lights to stall her either. So instead, you must find her on the cameras and stare at her. Once you do this for long enough, which takes around 3 seconds, but trust me, feels like way longer, especially when some fucker is at your door. But once you look at her for long enough, she'll move backwards 1 camera, and then you can switch to that camera and continue to push her back until she is at the top of the map. Note, you can't make her go back on stage, so the camera right next to it is as safe as you're gonna get. Keeping Scarlet away doesn't get too stressful until you have Mary or Rascal sitting at your door, and you have to stop flashing them to pull your camera up to keep her away. But now, we get to touch on Night 5. And if Night 4 was Poop City, Night 5 is Poop Universe. Oh my god, Night 5. It's very important that I answer a specific question now. The Game Jolt page for Mary's Arcade states that this game does not use RNG and is pure skill. Is that statement true? The answer is yes, but I promise you, when Night 5 comes around, it will feel like complete RNG. But it's not, okay? It's not. I promise. This game is not so much a horror game as it is a puzzle game. Literally everything that takes place during the nights are scripted. That includes where animatronics start, when they move, and where they move. Speaking of where they start, on Night 5, Mary starts about 3 cameras away from your door, and Rascal starts about 2 cameras away from your door, while Scarlet is on stage. Immediately, right out of the gate, you're at an enormous disadvantage. If you do nothing, within the first 10 seconds, Rascal will already be at your door. So you might think to just send him through, but almost directly after, Mary will be at your door, and uh-oh, you just used your PA. Guess it's time to kill myself. So then you think, okay, here's the strat. The moment the night starts, I'm gonna buzz Rascal and let Mary hit my door. I'll send her through and then stall Rascal with the light, which should give me just enough time to send him through before the lights go out. But uh-oh, fucker, you forgot about Scarlet, and now she's in your asshole. Okay, same strategy, except this time, after sending Mary through, we find Scarlet and send her back to the starting position, but oh shit! Rascal's at the door, so opening my cameras to move Scarlet now becomes super risky, and I'm fucked in the butthole again. Night 5 of Mary's Arcade is the bane of my existence. The piss in my pants and the shit in my britches. It took me over 2 hours of attempts to figure out the pattern of this night's puzzle. Again, everything is the exact same every night. Literally no RNG in the timings. So I started to develop a strategy. I needed to figure out exactly how Scarlet worked, and I'm pretty damn sure that I have. So, the night begins and Scarlet is in her start location. On night 5, she will start by going left, the same side that Rascal goes. I know that my timing needs to be tight and precise, so my plan is to buzz Rascal on start immediately, let Mary through, and stall Rascal at the door with the light until my PA system is ready to then let him through. Since I have to be in the bottom right corner camera to let Rascal through, I need to make sure that Scarlet will be there, so that the moment I open the camera to let Rascal through, I will retroactively immediately push Scarlet away from my door. But we just established that she's going left, so what do we do? Well, if you push Scarlet to the main starting room, she will begin to attack the opposite side. So in night 5, she begins by going counterclockwise. So if before Rascal reaches my door, but after I let Mary through, I push Scarlet back to the main room, she will then begin to move clockwise. This gives me time to stall Rascal while she moves. However, while stalling Rascal, I will have to make one risky move. If I leave her totally unanswered, she will kill me before my PA system refills, so I have to push her back at some point. Now, one might think, if you push her back, she'll start going in the wrong direction, and we've already established that I want her to be in the bottom right corner camera by the time I send Rascal through. But something I found out about Scarlet: you can push her back as much as you want, but she won't switch directions unless you push her back to the main room. Meaning that, if I sit on the bottom right corner camera in preparation for luring Rascal, I can temporarily stop flashing him with the light to pull up the camera and push Scarlet back into the kitchen camera and quickly go back to flashing Rascal. This will give my PA system just enough time to refill before Rascal's door timer runs out, allowing me to push Rascal through, and then push Scarlet back to the main room. You might be thinking now, wow, that took way more thinking than any game I've ever played in my entire life. But then you look at the time and realize that it's only 1 a.m. I have to figure out timings like that for the next 5 in-game hours. This right here is why this game took me so fucking long to beat. This scripted bullshit makes me want to get mauled by a bear. I would honestly rather have RNG because this just isn't fun. It doesn't feel like skill because each night is identical. At least with FNAF 2 10/20 mode, I know that I just got unlucky with Toy Bonnie and that next time I could just get lucky and win. But not with Mary's Arcade. Mary's Arcade is nothing but trial and error, spending 30 minutes figuring out a pattern, die, spend another 10 minutes solving the new problem, die, do it again and again and again until you realize that fucking 2 hours have passed and you've only solved up to 4 a.m. with a goddamn night. And then I get the displeasure of talking about 5 a.m. Oh, 5 a.m. You big, stinky, fat, smelly, sweaty, sticky, ugly, stupid, dumb, idiotic, brain-dead, moronic bitch. Right at the finale of 5 a.m., All of the cameras go completely out. You can't look at them. You're no longer able to see anything on the cameras, and it really comes down to you versus Scarlet. Scarlet, if unanswered, will make it to your office before you hit 6 a.m. every time without fail. But how exactly are you supposed to stop her if you can't see the cameras, you ask? I have no fucking idea. It was ironically sheer luck that I didn't die to her on my final run. My idea was that even though I couldn't see her, she was still there, meaning that if I knew where she was before the cameras went out, I could still land on the camera she was just on, wait for the camera to flicker letting me know I pushed her back, then continue to push her back to the main room and just camp that camera and wait to win, since Mary and Rascal showing up during the game's final desperation to keep me here was very, very uncommon. But there would be runs where I would do this and still miraculously die to Scarlet. I have no fucking idea where she was. I had no strategy, no puzzle to solve, no clues to go off of. Have you ever tried to put together a 100-piece jigsaw puzzle without looking at it? Play Mary's Arcade Night 5, 5 a.m. After a few attempts of giving it a try, you'd be unzipping your pants and pulling your wiener out at the thought of attempting the jigsaw puzzle. I'm dead ass serious. I do not know how I beat this night. I could not replicate what I did. I watched multiple other people beat this night, and I didn't pick up on any patterns. I literally have no conceivable idea what I was expected to do at this point. I really hope someone in the comments could tell me what the intended route was, because I'm honestly so fucking confused. But after beating Night 5, the game is done. And so is this video. Psych, you fucking idiot. There's a challenge night. Nightmare mode. Fuck. I didn't beat it. No, I didn't even put in an attempt. The moment I saw Nightmare mode on my title screen, I uninstalled the fucking game. I could not even begin to handle the mental anguish that would fall upon me as a consequence of trying that. No thank you, I'm good. But lucky for us, there is a custom night that introduces some new characters. Kipper, Dipper, and Martin. Kipper and Dipper are canonically Mary and Rascal's kids. Their mechanic is really easy. When you see them in your doorway, flip up your camera and flip it back down. That's it. Since they look like Mary and Rascal, I think the goal was to get you to think they were Mary and Rascal and cause you to turn the lights on, killing you. But it really isn't that hard to tell the difference. Martin is also very easy. Martin will spawn on any camera at random. All you have to do is find him and stare him down until he temporarily goes away. Easy. There's also these little random puppets that show up in front of your face, and you'll have to boop their noses to make them go away. I don't really understand the point of them, but I guess I'll go with it. Props to Frogger and Shooter for actually beating this shit show of a custom night. I'm well aware others have beaten it, but Frogger was the first victor, and I just like watching Shooter's content. So congrats, guys. I don't know why you did this to yourself. I'm sure that the anguish and the pain of doing this will surely be retroactively laid off on your future wife and children. But that's Mary's Arcade. There's technically a death minigame that plays sometimes upon a loss, but the creator of the game said there's not really a storyline to this game like most other FNAF games have, so I don't think diving into it is super necessary.
I've been covering FNAF games for quite a while, and every time I find a super unique game, I think to myself, there's no way any other FNAF game is going to be able to top that in creativity. But then, like clockwork, I find another one, and the game we'll be talking about today is no different. The game we'll be looking at today is called FNAF Showtime, a game made with Godot and is completely 3D, with hands down the most unique mechanic I've ever seen in a FNAF game before, and I can guarantee you've never seen anything like it either. So strap in as we dive into the exceptionally difficult world of FNAF Showtime. Jumping right into night one, there's plenty to talk about. To start, we don't actually just get booted directly into the office. Instead, we start at the entrance and can actually freely roam around the building to get a feel for our surroundings, which I always think is really nice. The layout of the building is incredibly different from any other FNAF game I've ever played, with the office being directly in the center of the building. This game consists of 9 cameras, and I mention that number for a very specific reason I'll mention later. Walking around the building, we stumble into the main dining room and can get a glance at single-handedly the most uncomfortable animatronics I legitimately think I've ever seen. These things are rancid and disgusting. They got the British treatment with their teeth, too. That's nasty. What the fuck? Oh my. Look at that pot belly, bro. Dude, that Chica's nasty. That Chica's actually so gross. I don't like it at all. I don't think any kid would want to come to a restaurant with the characters looking like this. Anyways, moving to our office, we can talk about the tools we have at our disposal. And strap in because this might just be the most creative and horrifying FNAF game we've ever covered. In Showtime, you're stuck in the cameras once you start the night. You can never drop them, which means you can never close your doors. Not that that's an issue anyways, as both of the entrances to your office don't even have doors. This is where those 9 cameras I mentioned become super important. Your cameras are controlled by your keyboard, not your mouse, using the keys Q, W, E, A, S, D, Z, X, and C. If you take a look at the cameras, you'll be able to see which letter correlates to each camera. This is a system that took me very long to get used to, but it's actually super cool. Now, when it comes to looking around the cameras, Showtime isn't like most FNAF games. The cameras don't pan back and forth by themselves. Instead, you're in charge of manually controlling the cameras using your mouse, and you have full control of the cameras, being able to point them in literally any direction you want, which I think is really cool. You'll even notice that there's a camera in your office and you can actually see yourself at your desk. But if we can't leave the cameras and there's no way to close the doors, how are we supposed to defend ourselves from the threats this game introduces? That is an amazing question. But before we answer it, let's talk about the 2 threats this night introduces. Night 1 introduces both Bonnie and Chica. I'm going to be talking about them at the same time since they both behave in the same way. Obviously, their goal is to reach your office, so that's exactly what they'll do. Something I really like about this game is you can always watch them move around the building. They don't have just one static frame for each camera. As this game is a 3D environment, the characters actually do roam around. Now, onto how to defend yourself. Well, your camera is equipped with the ability to reset the animatronics and force them to go back to where they started. And how do you activate this? Well, let's just say I hope you guys have been practicing aim labs because you're gonna need it. By holding left click, you can shoot a signal out of the camera where the crosshair is pointing. If you see Bonnie or Chica anywhere on the map, aim the crosshair at their head and hold down left click. Do this for long enough and a little jingle will play and their eyes will glow yellow, signaling that they will return to their starting location. Is that not like the coolest shit you've ever seen? I've never seen anything like that in a FNAF game before. I love it when fan devs try something new, and I think this one really nailed it, because this makes this game incredibly stressful. And that's for one main reason. You'll notice that there are a bunch of employee-only doors all around the building, and that's for a good reason. If the characters could only come from one area, it'd be way too easy to just camp their spawn points. So, when a character goes into attack mode, they will appear from literally any of the employee doors around the entire map. They can start in the main dining room, they can start in the entrance, the 2 party rooms, Pirates Cove, the arcade. It doesn't matter. They can come from anywhere, needing you to constantly be monitoring everything and listening for footsteps to see where the characters are going to come from. It is hard to put into words just how cool and creative this mechanic is. Nope. Get the fuck back in there, dude. I want nothing to do with you. This is gonna be fun. This one's gonna be fun, dude. Holy shit. These characters move around a lot, so you will have to be tracking their heads constantly, which I personally think is really fun. And I think it's absolutely terrifying when you hear a character's footsteps, but you can't quite tell which room they're coming from. That mad dash looking around the cameras to try and find them in time really adds to the tension this game builds. Dude, where are they going? I cannot keep track of these guys for shit, dude. And it's only going to get crazier and more difficult as we continue. So let's move on to night 2. Night 2 only adds one new threat to the game, and that threat is Foxy. Honestly, not that big of a deal when compared to the other characters and their bullshit. Foxy is very simple. He stays in Pirates Cove the entire game. He'll slowly move through different phases before charging at your office. Throughout the night, just make sure you're shooting him to reset his position, and he really shouldn't be an issue at all. No, where the challenge of this game comes into play is Bonnie and Chica, and the awkwardness of aiming and resetting them, as a lot of the time it feels very unresponsive. One of the strategies I came up with was at the start of the night, pointing all of the cameras at every possible place where the animatronics can come from. That way I can watch all 9 of them at once and see which characters come from which doors. And this would be the perfect strategy, except for 2 main problems. Let's start with the smaller issue. But don't get it twisted, it's still a pretty big issue. The characters move very quickly when they're walking. That by itself isn't a problem. What is a problem is the inconsistent amount of time it takes to send the characters back. Sometimes when you shoot them to reset, you only have to hold the mouse down for 3 seconds, and other times you have to hold it for upwards of 8 seconds. This massive inconsistency makes it very difficult to deal with the characters properly. But now onto the much bigger issue, which I admit is partially a skill issue on my end, but it also shows one of the game's flaws. An animatronic can be in a room. No shit. However, if you're looking at a character in a room from a camera that is not in the same room, you will not be able to reset them, even if you can clearly see them and have your crosshair directly on them. I think this is a problem. As mentioned earlier, it can take several seconds to send these characters back. And they're very fast, so they will be switching cameras frequently. And you'll have to match what cameras they're going to constantly, since you can't reset them from the room that the camera isn't in, even if you see them. The part where this is a skill issue is, I haven't been able to learn the map perfectly, to know off the top of my head how all of the rooms are attached. When you control the direction of each camera, and there's 9 of them, it will very, very quickly become incredibly disorienting to even figure out which area of the building you're in, let alone track 2 characters that are constantly walking around all the time. Again, this specific part is a skill issue for sure, but I do think my previous point is an actual problem. Hey, got my fucking aimbot on, bro. What the fuck? This is cheating. Bonnie's cheating. The fuck, where is he? Oh shit. Dude. Where the fuck is he? What the fuck? Dude, where the fuck was he? I could not find his ass. The fuck he go to, bitch? But with that out of the way, let's move on to night 3. Night 3 is actually a doozy, guys, I can't lie. While no new threat is introduced, an entire new mechanic is implemented that makes this game extraordinarily harder than you could ever imagine. What is that mechanic, you ask? Well, let me tell you, pretty much Satan. Now, at specific times throughout the night, all of the lights to the building will be turned off for at least 1 in-game hour, sometimes longer, making it incredibly fucking difficult to see anything. So difficult that through my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I actually had to change my graphics settings to make it easier for me to see, because there's no way in hell I would have completed this otherwise. However, there is something I want to praise this game for when it comes to introducing this mechanic, as thankfully it didn't just drop it directly on your forehead like I do with babies. Instead, it makes the early half of the night incredibly easy. While the phone guy is talking to you and the lights are on, only Foxy and Chica will be active, making it very easy for the first 2 in-game hours. Once 2 a.m. strikes, the power goes out for the first time, and it will come back on at 3 a.m. During this time, still only Foxy and Chica are active, and Chica will really only attack 1, maybe 2 times at most. Only after the lights come back on at 3 a.m. will Bonnie become active and start attacking. Once again at 4 a.m. the power will turn back off, wherein it will never turn back on for the remaining 2 hours of the night. So you get time to get a feel for the lights being off by only having to deal with Chica, who moves far slower than Bonnie does, and then they ease you into dealing with both of them at the same time. I think this is such a good way of introducing such a debilitating mechanic. It doesn't feel like this game is just prying open my asshole and filling it with its saliva. It's properly teaching the mechanic without directly making you feel like it's teaching you. This is a perfect execution of a mechanic like this, and as much as I hate the lights going out, this game made me hate it Probably as little as I possibly could hate it, which I think is pretty cool. But with that new AIDS out of the way, let's move on to night 4. Night 4 is an interesting night, and another night that really shows off how wonderful this game is at introducing mechanics to you. With me just talking about how well the light function was introduced, this night has a brand new character so heinous, yet the developer was able to introduce them in a nice way, or at least as nice as possible considering how much this guy sucks. Night 4 introduces Freddy, the big kahuna himself. The role he plays is both very simple and the most terrifying at the exact same time. His goal is, of course, to get into your office. However, the way he does so is what makes him so scary. Unlike Bonnie and Chica, who wander around the building and then enter your office, when Freddy appears from a door, he will make a beeline directly for your office with no stops along the way. And Freddy is fast. Very, very fast. Freddy's music will start playing during the times he can attack. During the music, you'll hear him laugh. When he does laugh, that's how you'll know when he's about to open a door. So you'd better drop everything you're doing to focus on him, because once he exits one of the doors, you have approximately 6 seconds to deal with him before he starts digging in your butt. Now, I mentioned they introduced Freddy very nicely. How exactly did they do that? Well, Freddy activates while the lights are off on this night, so that's not very kind. However, during this Freddy attack section, both Bonnie and Chica will not be moving around, so this entire moment is spent focusing on Freddy as you understand how he works. Again, another beautiful execution of a mechanic like this. I dislike when FNAF games introduce a mechanic while everything else is happening with no explanation of how the character works. I think having the player figure it out on their own can be a good thing, but not while everything else is happening at the same time. Wonderful integration, but it makes me very scared for Night 5. Speaking of, let's move on to that. Night 5 overall doesn't add anything new. In general, it's just a much harder version of Night 4, and I'll explain why. Remember how I said that this game did a really good job of teaching the Freddy mechanic? Yeah, well on Night 5, let's just say they're not so nice. There are 2 blackouts on Night 5. The first is very kind. It lasts 60 seconds and consists only of Freddy, just like Night 4. That made me think for a moment, just a moment, this game was about to be very kind. But boy, was I wrong. The second blackout happens at 5 a.m. and runs throughout the final hour. During this final blackout, all 4 of the characters are active, and it's by far the most stressful section this game has ever had. I was skilled and based enough to beat it on my second attempt, but that's only because I'm literally the hunky chiseled god. 2 additional things to talk about on this night. The first is that it reveals another Freddy mechanic. That being, he can attack while the lights aren't out as well, except there is a big difference. Something you'll notice about Bonnie and Chica is that Bonnie is significantly faster than Chica is. During the lights out sections, Freddy will be Bonnie's speed, which is why he's so scary. But while the lights are on, Freddy will move at Chica's speed, still making him a big threat since he goes right for your office, but also makes him easier to deal with. The last thing I want to talk about before we continue is Golden Freddy. During my playthrough of Night 5, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I actually had Golden Freddy appear. He appears in your office, and I didn't dare look at him with the office camera, but you can see I was looking at him through one of the party rooms. But with that, that's all Night 5 has to offer. I assumed there would be some form of cutscene after completing it, but no. I was not so lucky. Instead, we're just thrown right into Night 6, where I'm sure we'll have just a perfect happy-go-lucky time. So turns out it wasn't actually a Night 6. Upon walking to your desk to start the night, you're greeted to the extra screen where you can play any of the previous nights again, do a custom night, a real-time night, and do 5 unique challenges. So as far as we're concerned, that's all FNAF Showtime has to offer. I'm just kidding. Of course we're going to talk about the challenge modes. So let's quickly go over the first and most boring one of them all, Blackout. As the name suggests, the entire night has the power out. So say hello to Usain Bolt Freddy pile driving your rear from the back for the entire night. Not a very interesting challenge mode, but definitely a challenge mode nonetheless. The next challenge is called Find the Cupcakes, my personal favorite challenge mode, and you'll never guess what it is we have to do on this night. Throughout the cameras, 10 cupcakes will be hidden. All you have to do is find each of them and reset them to collect them. The only threat active on this night is Chica, which makes sense since it is her cupcake, but I do feel it makes this challenge far too easy. I think having all the characters active but at lower AI values would make this challenge much more interesting. This next challenge we're going to talk about is very, very evil. Like, think of the most evil thing you could possibly imagine, right? Think about it. Think of its shadow, right? Start with like a shadow, just got like a shadow ball, and now mold that shadow. Put it between your fingers, let it slide like you're making some clay bowl in art class in 5th grade, right? Shape it into the most annoying, fucking terrifying piece of garbage you can possibly think of. Is the shadow you molded the shape of Balloon Boy? Because if it is, you guessed this challenge night perfectly. This challenge is called Camera Problems, and I bet you can take a perfect guess as to what that means. During this night, while all characters are active, Balloon Boy will occasionally, and very frequently I might add, cause one of the cameras to break. When he breaks a camera, he himself will be present in the room of that camera and you'll have to reset him. But how do you do that if you can't access the camera? Well, you'll have to find him in that room from another camera and reset him through that one. And Balloon Boy, we all know him, is just an asshole. Piece of shit, smelly ass, goofy ass, shitty ass, pissy ass, farty ass, shardy ass, stupid ass, dumb ass, bitch ass, dunce ass, fuck ass boy. This is an incredibly difficult challenge, and I love that a new character was created specifically for it. I think that's really cool. The next challenge is called Above and Below, and did something I would have never expected. All it does is add a brand new character alongside all of the other ones we've already been having to deal with, that character being Mangle, who is by far the most terrifying character of them all. You'll notice that above each employee door, you'll also find a vent. These vents are where Mangle comes from. And the challenge from Mangle comes from both her being on the ceiling and by being the fastest character in the entire game, even outspeeding Bonnie and Freddy. That's all this challenge is, but holy shit, Mangle is so fucking fast and it makes this challenge one of the hardest. But I still don't think it's quite harder than Balloon Boy's. The next challenge is called Divided Attention, and you'll be able to guess exactly what this night is going to offer the moment you load into it. That being the fact that you can hear a music box. And if you check the prize corner, you'll see a small music box on the counter. That's right. This challenge just adds another fucking Foxy to constantly look after. Isn't that just fucking amazing? Yeah. Needless to say, I'd like to move on as fast as possible. But with that, that's all of the challenges that FNAF Showtime has to offer. And overall, I think FNAF Showtime is an incredible game. Even though there are only 4 characters throughout the main night sections, this game proves to be one of the most difficult I've ever played. Learning how to track the characters and prioritizing them is exceptionally difficult, but it's so cool.